So I think that was probably one of the first times you, Dr. Goodenowe, have shared your story. Moving for all of us, we see this man who super smart, developed all this cool science, and it feels kind of like an overnight success, but he's been working out this his whole life. And to have discovered something that can help so many people and have that not just taken away from you, but from them was probably one of the most challenging and what the heck do I do from here kind of moments. And the fact that that happened so long ago, and now Thatcher got to be the first kid to have that, this is just such a powerful moment. And you all are here in person with us, but this is really special that everyone is here on this stage, and this took your whole lifetime.
And that's kind of why we had to really rethink everything. Like, I had to rebuild my entire mindset of patents and FDA approvals and 510K, diagnostic devices and building mass spectrometers. And it was just clear, how is it something so freaking obvious can't make it through a logical system? And that's kind of what we basically set out to do. So basically create a non-intellectual property restrictive system. And that's what I've been building. So now we're very close to doing it. And you guys are just the pioneers in it.
The pioneers. So I would love to hear from both families to tell us, a little bit about what it was like to your process through diagnosis, and then what you were told once you got the diagnosis. Did people give you resources, and what did you do? But I'm sure it wasn't just like you knew right away that they had RCDP. So if you could each just share a little bit about that.
Is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So it took almost 5 years for us to get a diagnosis for Thatcher. He was born a really healthy 8-pound baby, and we didn't realize anything was wrong right away. Although within a few weeks, he started crying a lot. He had a lot of difficulty breastfeeding. I kept taking him to the pediatrician saying something's wrong with our baby, and I was dismissed. It took several months before I found a pediatrician who would listen, and she got us in, and so we saw a developmental pediatrician who diagnosed Thatcher with cerebral palsy because he met the diagnostic criteria. And from there, there were lots of different diagnoses, and it wasn't, again, until he was 5 that we got the RCDP diagnosis. And Nicholas has talked about this in the past as well, but it was really scary to hear that your child has a fate.
Well, and they missed it the first time. It was in you did genetic testing, and somehow they got missed, and they.
Right. So we did genetic.
So you found it, right?
Yeah, I did.
And this is what we're talking about warrior moms. These people, women and parents, fathers, they become experts in these diseases. They become more expert in these diseases than most of us ever will, because they research a lot of things.
Yeah. So you were looking into it, Nicole, and you double-checked the genetic testing, right? And called them back and said that you saw something?
So we did whole exome sequencing with Thatcher when he was about 18 months, and where we were told they would look at every gene, and if he has a genetic thing going on, that we would find out that way. And for some reason, PEC7, the gene involved, there was an error in the testing back when he was 2. So we really should have found out years before. But I did keep pushing for answers, and I remember people close to us, even my parents, saying, Nicole, you just need to accept that you're never going to have a true diagnosis for Thatcher. And I just remember feeling like that wasn't good enough for him. And I kept in and maybe it was a God thing or the universe, but I just felt like, but what if there's something we can do to help him? And having a diagnosis might do that for us. And so, yes, we ended up, I read about RCDP, and Thatcher just met so many of those symptoms. And I called the geneticist at the Children's Hospital and said, did you look at PEC7? And he was like, I'm so sorry, there was a mistake. And we didn't look at that gene, at which time we did more testing and had it confirmed.
Sorry.
I know what you're going to do.
Not nearly as eloquent, but I mean, you found that he had PEC7 by going through your genes and his genes. I mean, it was quite a process. And I was in the camp of reserving myself that we would never know what Thatcher had. So it's really all Nicole. I mean, there's no way we would have contacted him now, yeah.
Thank you, honey. But with that being said, when we got the diagnosis, we were like, okay, at least now we know. Like, we know what we're dealing with. How can we help him? And the first step was like getting him in front of RCDP specialists. And so we flew across the country. We live in Oregon. We flew to Delaware, and at first it was like, this is great. These doctors know what they're talking about. They know what's wrong. But very quickly it was, okay, let's try these different pharmaceuticals. It's palliative care, and that felt terrible. I mean, you want to have hope. You want to feel like there's something you can do to help your child. I mean, you saw in the video, Thatcher, especially around age 4, I think is when it really started. He would scream all the time. He would lay on the floor and he would cry and scream, and we had no idea how to help him. And that is a really, really hard place to be in. And not just as parents, but for our other kids as well, being around that kind of just screaming and kind of heartache and the stress that brings to an entire family was really hard. Did I answer your question,
Yes.
Victoria?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Amazing story.
So how did you get to go forward
Wanna keep going?
to when you first figured out?
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll
So yes,
yeah.
so we flew to Delaware, and we were told that palliative care was kind of what we could do for him. And no one mentioned plasmalogens at all, which blows my mind to me, because our children have plasmalogen deficiency. Like that's all they need is plasmalogens. And so the fact that no one suggested that to us, and not only did no one suggest it, once we were approached by Dr. Goodenowe and his team, we went back to the RCDP group, and they were all like, no, don't do that, and our doctors don't recommend that. And that was crazy to us, because well, for obvious reasons, like our
Yeah.
kid needs plasmalogens.
And if a doctor's telling you not to do something, you're like,
Right.
well, they're the expert. And what?
Right.
Yeah. What else is there? Did you have a similar experience, Maddie?
Yes, definitely. We were told, I mean, immediately when we were approached, we brought it to the RCDP families and were shut down very, very quickly. And yeah, the doctors, the experts in RCDP were just like, don't trust supplementation. We don't know what it'll do to your kids. Wait for this pharmaceutical drug we have coming sometime in the future. And that just wasn't something that we were willing to wait for.
Yeah, and I think too, it took some time before we were able to put all the pieces together. Like, okay, here's this organization, Rhizo Kids International, and they're kind of, they're working with the RCDP specialists, and they all have their own motivations. And unfortunately, what we felt like was, they weren't good motivations for our kids.
And then people get so scared of these children. They treat them like little China dolls. They're very afraid to break them. And so getting your pediatricians and even finding doctors that will actually really dig into their health is also the biggest challenge, because it's very rare. Like 99% of pediatricians will never see an RCV kid in their entire lifetime, right? And so that's the other challenge, is just finding some care of, there really is, you guys really are on your own on these rare diseases, and all parents are kind of like that on their own. And they are stuck with these situations. We see your story, maybe hear the videos of Stacy and Jack from the UK, same thing, undiagnosed leukodystrophy. This is not an abnormal story. This is the normal process that every family goes through with a rare disease. And if it's not, if you are in some other disease that is got some, gene modifying therapy or something else going on, then you're basically, bombarded with, requests to be part of their trials.
And I will say that, we enrolled Thatcher in the clinical trial, and we were kicked out of it once we disclosed that we started giving plasmalogens. And that also just felt really gross, they want the kids to keep progressing so they can study them. Well, our kids have been studied for a really long time, and we know what happens when you don't intervene. And so I think we lost a lot of trust. And what's interesting too is when Thatcher started plasmalogens and he started improving so quickly, and once I had different data points of like, these are the medical improvements we're seeing, and this is what the physical therapist is seeing, and this is, all these different people. And I sent that information to that hospital of RCDP specialists, and they never responded to us. It was like
They never respond?
they never responded.
You would think that would be their one job. If that's their purpose, right? Is to provide support, and your child got better and they didn't respond.
Correct. Yeah. And we've had similar situations with different organizations. There's a lot of motivation to see the pharmaceutical drug, like Dr. Goodenowe was saying. Our kids are worth a lot of money to some people.
Well, and they do these what's called natural history studies. So a treatment program in a rare disease is not like a treatment program for, well, dementia is not a good example, but for others, where you're looking for a positive outcome. The ALS is another really horrible example, because the successful showing a statistically significant effect in this disease does not mean the children get any positive outcomes. It means that the decline rate has been delayed. And so the natural history, that the rate of progression of the untreated cohort is the critical component of the trial. And so if you want an ALS trial, you need to have people in ALS that aren't taking anything helpful. Okay, because the more rapidly the control trial arm declines, the less of an effect you need for your drug to get statistical significance, which is why we get drugs that are completely ineffective. They run a clinical trial, Riluzole, Endavron, okay, the colon cancer drugs, there's a whole bunch of stories where we're seeing these things. And so this is where the problem comes in, is if you have any children in the control arm that are getting better, it destroys the entire trial. So statistically, scientifically, okay, unfortunately, the children aren't mice, okay, they're humans. And so that's the situation. So yeah, you destroy the entire statistical significance of a trial.
So Maddie, were you and Nicole connected through an RCDP group for moms? Is that how you met?
Yes, our children were actually diagnosed with.
Slower.
Karen just told her to lift it. She can't win. No, we just want to make sure people on the live stream can hear. You're doing good.
No worries. Both of our children were diagnosed within the same week of each other. So we both were introduced into this Facebook group at the same time. And then we quickly realized that both of our children also were presenting non-classic. So we immediately started, messaging each other, comparing notes. And Nova is about 3 years younger than Thatcher. So it was a glimpse into the future for us. Not always a good one, unfortunately. But yeah, that's how we first connected pretty quickly. And then once we started plasmalogens, it was Thatcher starting that got us to start as well. We had, been approached and we're thinking about it, looking at it, but I was scared when all the other families and the doctors were saying, do not do this. And all the parents had accepted, we won't do this. And I felt crazy for being like, but I feel like I should. And then Nicole was off and going, and Thatcher was improving almost immediately. And I was like, this is silly. Send them. Whatever you're doing, send it to our house. And we started Nova, and she also had quick improvement.
Amazing. And the power of just community, like the people in this room who are here learning and sharing their stories. It's just amazing what can happen, but you have to see examples and connect with those people. Nicole and Nicholas, tell us a little bit about, once you started, did you just feel like you wanted to shout it from the rooftops? Did you feel like people weren't understanding or taking it seriously, and that's why you had to document everything? Or what is that like to be the first?
I think it was a little unnerving to go first because you don't really know, and we had a lot of hope.
A lot of emails and a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, we had a lot of support for sure. Dr. G, the whole team was amazing to us. And we've said this before, but we started taking plasmalogens first because Thatcher is nonverbal, and we wanted to, if we wanted to know what it felt like. And so we felt great. We were comfortable proceeding. But no, I look back at those first few months, and it was just kind of one of the most exciting times in our life because Thatcher just started, improving so quickly that every day I'd be texting Tracy or you or someone saying, "Oh my gosh, she just stood up for the first time," or "Oh my gosh, she's walking." So we did see a ton of improvement right from the beginning. That was just so exciting. And yes, we were documenting everything. And I think we were pretty quiet, kind of sharing on social media at first.
I think we were nervous to be too excited and something to go very, very wrong.
Right.
But then here we are a few years in, and we have had 0 negative side effects. So pretty quickly after a couple months, we did start shouting it from the rooftops. And there are some RCDP families that have quietly gotten on board, which is sad to me that they feel that they have to be quiet about it. And that's why I feel like my responsibility to be loud to help a family.
And people should realize, okay. Nicole and Madeline provide a lot of support to other families because every child is different. They're going to have different dietary restrictions. They're going to have different challenges, gut issues, how to get the dose in. It's not just, oh, here you go, and it's the avocado toast for them. But so having the science, and this is what we do with the autism community as well, is the ability to actually do it in your home and the ability to actually what works in your house. Because it's no simple, perfect recipe. And this is the other problem with when we're doing this biochemical restoration, which is difficult to do in a complete clinical trial. Large trials we can do, we call them adaptive clinical trials. But in these smaller cases, it's, the two of you don't have exactly the same protocol. Very different, right? And so, and the other families will have slightly different protocols as well because they're going to optimize it. And the parents, all the ones that have the high degree of sensitivity to what's going on in their child. Okay, they're the only ones who really know, is this working? This is the right dose? Is my child tolerating this? What else should we do on it? You're back and forth with neurologists, you're back and forth with your ABA therapies and everything else. And so I think scientists and doctors, often we prescribe these things, or we provide these recommendations and then come back and see us in 6 months. Whenever you want to, don't call, I won't call you, you call me type process. And so, and the same thing. So I think that's the biggest thing people realize, that it's, and they have to have the confidence, because a lot of parents just don't have, they just want to be told everything. Just tell me exactly what to do, when to do it. I don't want to think for myself.
Well, and honestly, we were kind of like that at the beginning because we were used to doctors saying, do this, take this at this time and this amount. And when we first started with you, it was like, well, your son, like you're the expert in your son, like you make the adjustments. And I was like, oh, like I can do that. I had to really like retrain my brain. And I do think that some parents are nervous about that because they don't, that makes them uncomfortable to have to make those kinds of decisions themselves. But ultimately, we went through a lot of different changes with dosages over the last 2.5 years, and his needs have changed too as his brain has healed and developed and grown. Yes, he's no longer, I don't know how he can be considered a child with dwarfism, and our son Weston likes to say that like he's gonna be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the tallest child with dwarfism, because he's grown physically, which that presents its own set of challenges, honestly, that he's so big and he's so strong now.
Weston, do you want to add anything about what you've seen with your brother?
Not really, but like the specialists in Delaware.
You can still beat him in basketball, though, right?
Okay. The specialists in Delaware, I don't consider them a specialist. I consider him right here the specialist. He's the expert about this kind of stuff.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Weston.
Weston, do you want to talk at all about what Thatcher was like before his plasmalogens and after? Because you were only, 7 when he started?
Yeah. I mean, before plasmalogens, he would just cry every single day. He wasn't really engaged in anything, just very in his own world, just crying every single day, almost 24/7. And it's kind of hard to see that for a brother.
Yeah.
And what about now?
It's amazing. I mean, it's kind of like he can play with me more, how someone who's like a brother who actually doesn't have RCDP would play with me. And it's incredible.
Incredible.
And you might be his favorite.
So these children have still challenges, and maybe Madeline, you talk about a little bit of, Nova still goes through lots of surgeries, cataract surgeries, bone surgeries, and so these children, like people realize, these parents aren't they're not done with their travels. So kind of walk us through the continuing saga of Nova as she's getting better, but you're still dealing with walk us through all the different medical things that you and DJ have had to go through. over the
Okay,
last
sure.
few years.
We'll take it back to her birth.
Okay.
Well, first of all, Nova's in the room.
Yeah.
I just want to say that her sitting over there quietly this entire time blows my mind. We still see things like this every day that we're just like, that's new. That's, the improvements are never ending. And I'm just so happy to look over and see her there content and sitting quietly.
Oh, she was sitting quietly at dinner last night, all night long.
Yeah, we had a great dinner last night too, and she was fantastic. So Nova was born, and we were told that she was healthy. She was 6 pounds, 7 ounces, so a little on the small side. But she was healthy. We took her home, and within a couple of days, we went back to the pediatrician, and she was struggling to gain her birth weight back, and that continued on. She was struggling to grow at all and gain any kind of weight. We were going to the doctor every couple of days for weigh-ins, and we were eventually admitted to the hospital for failure to thrive. And this was her first symptom of RCDP for us. We would stay in the hospital for 13 days, and they ran every test under the book that they could think of at that children's hospital for all kinds of things. And all tests were negative. We were once again sent home with a healthy baby, even though the us being first-time parents, she's our first child. We were just kind of like, she's small, but she's happy and chilling. Like, I don't know what everyone's so concerned about. But they were still very concerned, but they had nothing else to do. And we were like, you can't keep us here forever. And so they sent us home. A couple months would go by, and she eventually would have her eyes started rolling around really rapidly and moving, and we thought she was having seizures or something. Took her to the ER, ended up being cataracts in both eyes, and that's when she would have her first surgery at 5 months old. After that, she continued to struggle to eat anything. She didn't hit any of her milestones, and she didn't hit 8 pounds until she was like 4 months old. Like, she was growing painfully slow, and the doctors were very, very concerned with that. And we were doing all different kinds of feeding stuff to change it, formulas, this, that, the other thing. Eventually she was given a G tube. That helped boost her health a little bit, just getting some nutrition into her. And we eventually were approved for full exome testing. At 18 months old, she was diagnosed with RCDP. And from there, it was good to get a diagnosis because we could connect with other families and we had an answer, and we felt like now we could get her the support that she needed and could make some kind of progress. And it was better than not knowing and just having being sent to all these different specialists for everyone to say, I don't know, she's fine. I don't know, it's not normal, but we don't know, so go on.
Or you're
With
not
your-
feeding her properly.
Yeah, and there was some we had some bad treatment because we were on watch for failure to thrive that we weren't feeding her, which they pretty quickly realized that I was not the problem, being a very attentive mother, of course. But that was really hard on me because I did start to wonder. Just like how. I'm sorry.
Nova is doing really good lately. After piggyback off what Maddie said, how she's making improvements every day. This morning, like during our travels, we were kind of bad about giving her plasmalogens because we're just so busy and we just didn't have the chance to do it. And this morning we gave it to her, and she comes up to me with her diaper, running over to me, waving her diaper, and she needed a diaper change. And she does not do that. And it's just amazing to see that it really does help her. And
Yeah, we're just constantly seeing new improvements, but I felt just horrible that they couldn't find anything wrong, so it must be something that we're doing. So getting a diagnosis kind of relieved that I could finally be like, although genetically we did cause this, I personally didn't mean to cause this, so it's not my fault necessarily. From there, she's had several other surgeries and she has a lot of struggles. A lot of her struggles, though, were and still are her sensory problems. She, in a lot of ways, has a lot of the symptoms of what people like autism type of symptoms. She really struggles or she used to really struggle to touch any kind of different surfaces like you'd seen in or on our little video, touching sand, touching grass. None of that was possible before plasmalogens. When we would leave the house, she would be happy in her stroller, but if we took her out of her stroller, she would just crumble to the floor and cry, no matter where we were. Those resolved within weeks of starting plasmalogens, which was just a glimmer of hope for us, that her brain was clearing up, and that was notable progress for us. She also has had several surgeries on her legs because she does have dwarfism, so her bones are not growing properly. And so she's had a double knee osteotomy. She has to have another one this year. She does walk, but she is technically in a wheelchair for support, but she can walk. And now that she walks, she can walk outside and she walks when she goes to school. Those things were not possible before starting plasmalogens either.
she runs and jumps in the living room. Her favorite thing to do is jump on the couch and spin around and run back and forth.
Well, I remember you having to baby-proof your house for the first time.
Yes, we never baby proofed with her because she just didn't get into anything or go anywhere. She was just kind of where you put her, she would be. And then once she started plasmalogens, I was like, what the heck? What is all this stuff we have to, because she was getting into everything and breaking toys. I was like, she broke something. Yes. She's playing. And those kind of things we just didn't ever see or get to experience. So although she has a lot of struggle still, she's nonverbal. She does have sensory stuff. If you've seen us around the resort, sometimes she's yelling and, crazy. But the fact that we can mostly address her problems, she can communicate with us. She very boldly shows us what she wants. She'll with all her might drag you off the couch to go get something and show you exactly what she wants. And those kind of cognitive decisions were not present. I remember right before we started plasmalogen, she had her first evaluation at the elementary school for her IEP, her first. So we were getting involved with the special needs, special education program, and they evaluate them. And then we started plasmalogens, and she had a second evaluation 1 month later. And I remember the person doing the evaluation was like, "What did you do to her? Because this is not the same child." And it was that quick. It was a few weeks after starting that she went from the first evaluation where she just was like stuck to us, could not even like the person evaluating couldn't even interact with her or get her to participate in any way in whatever she was doing, to the second one where she's like looking in stuff, taking stuff from her, walking around the room, like, and that was just not her at all. She was so uncomfortable in her own body, she could not function or think, and you could just feel that for her. And now she actually has her wants and her needs, and she's gonna get her needs met on her own time, and just having that kind of stuff is irreplaceable for us.
Thank you so much for sharing. I have a question for Dr. Goodenowe. So you did a lot of research, and you knew that the science made sense, but what was it like when the first child who was told they would never walk could walk? Were you like, I knew it?
Well, yeah, well, I knew it. It was like, but we actually started making the plasmalogens for myself and others around 2019, I think it was. And the other part we did was we waited a little while before we reached out to people. We wanted to make sure we had manufacturing levels up to proper, production level quality, because this is not something that you can just say, oh, hey, here's a cool trial. Let's try giving you some plasmalogens for a few months to see how your kid does. Okay, and then after the trial's done, I pull this drug off your plate and say, sorry, thank you for approving my drug, but now, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so these kids need plasmalogens 24/7, or every day of their life for the rest of their life. So we need to make sure we could make this stuff reproducibly and in a way that we have, and also our business model was such that we were pretty comfortable that we are going to be able to survive in the business world, because this is a problem, this is this hope thing, right? There's a responsibility now to be able to deliver this stuff, because we're the only ones in the world to make this stuff. And so that takes a little bit of time, because there's still, there's a business to run, there's buildings to, there's rent to pay, there's, salaries to do. And so so the community at large, okay, this is the whole model with the Alzheimer's and other these are very large populations. Okay, so RCDP families are just, they're a drop in the bucket. Like, these are small kids, they don't take a lot of plasmalogens. But you can't really, so building an entire company to provide plasmalogen to, a handful of children is certainly not a good business model, unless you get paid $400,000 a year each, per child. And so this allows us, with our greater community, to do this work and provide the charity for RCDP families, so that no child with RCDP will ever pay for plasmalogens. But part of the process is getting the communication out there. So that was a big thing. So it's exciting, but it's also scary. All right. You get plasmalogen started. What if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? Okay, so really think about it, right? So right? And so how is this stuff going to continue on for people that need this stuff? It's just not, and there's not multiple supplies, which there probably will be at some point in time. But that's kind of the system that so really want to make sure that when we reached out in 2022 that, worst case scenario, I'd make a barrel of it and store it someplace for you guys. And so, and that's kind of where we went from. So so it's kind of it was more of a practical and just learning, to actually see people, to actually see Nicole and actually see Madeline and actually see the other families, really see what they're going through in a sense, and not discount how hard it is to be first, right? And then understand what you guys are doing now we're trying to get, we'll get a nice charity going, our foundation going with information, create this sense of stability, sense of, structure. People need that. The NIH, these big fancy buildings with big glass towers, they feel good to people. They feel solid. They feel, oh my goodness, okay, I'm going to get taken care of here, right? And regular people really feel that. Okay, they don't like to come someplace that has a you're working out of a garage someplace. Like, that doesn't feel good. So, we really we have to build as a community, and everything we're talking about for these 3 days, and then tomorrow is more on the infrastructure side. It's really this kind of restoration program. We have to objectively look, okay, at how are we going to get these other families, okay, to really be comfortable enough to save their children. It sounds like the stupidest thing in the world to say. Like, you get angry at people and say, what the F, right? And so, but that's just life. And then doctors, it's easier to do nothing and let someone die than do something that you don't know, right? So as long as you follow the rules and you can pass the responsibility on to someone else. Oh, I'm not responsible for my kid's bad health. I'm just following what my pediatrician told me. It's no longer my responsibility. I'm just doing what I'm told to do. Okay. And doctors would do the same thing. I'm just doing what I'm told to do. And why we're all here together, because you guys are all a bunch of people who don't really do what you're told. And so that's a good thing.
Thank you.
And so he has more of that. And I think that's kind of really that self-empowerment process. But that really where the community comes in. But you guys can have the confidence of using advanced therapies because it's not just one of you, right? Like when we talk these advanced protocols that we do for other things, even if you want exosomes, stem cells, peptides, other types of protocols, it's not one person doing it. There's 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, 20, 30 doctors. We'll go to a conference and there'll be 100 people, 200 people talking about one particular thing. So there is a community of anarchists, if you will. Okay, the communities are the ones that are actually working together. So no matter what you do, okay, whether you're in a punk rock band or you're in a, whatever thing, it's still a group of people that have a likeness to each other. And they have a power in that community. And that's kind of what we have to start creating and you're seeing in the autism community more so because they've really self-organized themselves and taken control of their world and really take ownership. And these parents do, they take the responsibility and that's what you guys have done. But that's not natural. We may think it's natural, but it's actually not natural. But we have to figure out a way to do that, and we're working on that together.
And so for both families, besides plasmalogen, what advice do you have for other families, whether their children have RCDP or maybe something else that they don't know what's going on? Is there anything you can share from what you've learned that you would give for other parents?
I would say do your own research. Don't always trust the experts. You should, like Dr. G said, you always know your kid better than anybody else knows and what your family needs more than anybody else. So always research for yourself. Even if you think you trust this person, research for yourself and what's best for your family.
It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. I think that's the main thing. It's hard to be a healthy skeptic without being cynical, and you have to kind of find that line of, well, like you said, just because an expert said it, that doesn't mean that's right, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. You really have to dig deep. And I mean, just throwing it back to my wife, like I cannot tell you how much research she did to find out what Thatcher had. I mean, there was a point when she had index cards on the wall with strings attached, like a detective. I mean, it was amazing to actually be able to figure this out, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of time, but it is the right path if you can dedicate yourself to that. So yes, definitely do your own research. Be a skeptic, but still keep hope alive as well.
This actually is not my advice. This is Dr. Goodenow's advice to me when we first started. That was really useful. He had told me, you need to compare Thatcher to Thatcher. compare Thatcher now to how he was 2 weeks ago or a month ago. And that was so helpful to me because I think naturally we want to be like, well, but he still really struggles and he's not meeting those milestones yet. But then when I take a step back and say, wow, like look at all the progress he has made, like, so that would be my advice. If you do decide to go through a process like this and your child starts making even like little bits of improvement, I mean, just always compare him or her to how they were before, and try to stay away from comparing your child to any
Everybody
other
else,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too, this is not an anomaly, by the way. So these RCDP children of yours, like, little boy named Jack in the UK with leukodystrophy, 50% of his brain white matter loss. He's now down to only 10% loss. Neurologists can't explain it. His MRIs are coming back. His brain is regrowing back in his head. Dr. Newman and I have actually experienced treating genetic diseases in utero, where children are born. We've been able to effectively treat genetic disease before the baby was even born. The baby does have no detectable genetic disease whatsoever. Okay. And so these are not anomalies. And these genetic diseases, we can learn from this. And so we, and every, talk about Rett syndrome or X-linked ALD, all these mitochondrial defects. So this concept of actually restoring health, which is what this is about, it's not about the mutation. It's not about the disease and autism. It's not about the cause. It's about restoring that neurodevelopment to the most, the best way we can. Obviously taking into account any other distractions that might be occurring. But this is not, this is basic stuff that we're doing. Like it really shouldn't be that, stupendous, but it really is, because it is first. But it really is, it's actually simple stuff. Like we're dealing with simple biochemical nutrients for the most part.
I saw in the presentation he talked about early intervention, that earlier the better. And I think for us, like we are really lucky that we started treating Nova at 3 years old. Thatcher was 6 when he started. And I remember a very pivotal moment for me was when because Nicole and I would talk all the time. And so she had texted me about his heart not functioning properly. And I just remember thinking like, that's our future. Like this is where his real decline is going to start, and so I'm just so grateful that we got to start plasmalogens at 3 years old. Thatcher started struggling the most at 4 with the screaming and all of that. We avoided that completely because we started at 3. And so it's really hard to watch some of these families, like especially the new RCDP kids, like there's new RCDP kids born every year, and to see them not get the support in the groups that we're in to start. Like I just want to take that mother and be like, please give your baby this now on day 1. How much better could their health improve by giving it to them on day 1? But they're so scared because when you have all these other parents that getting a new diagnosis, you're like, I should trust the senior parents. I should trust the doctors. I should trust the professionals and everything. It's really detrimental to them. And so if there's anyone out there that is like feeling or thinking like, maybe I should try this, it could be the difference between major improvement. And I know like some of the damage that my daughter has, especially with her bones, we can't reverse some of that, but we have prevented a decline that was inevitable. And I don't know how long that she will live, but I do know for sure that she has so much more quality of life every single day because of this.
Yeah. And just everyone on stage, from the visionary but also deeply human work that Dr. Goodenowe does, to Nicole and Nicholas and Weston for being brave to be the first and then share your story, the ripple effect that affects Nova's trajectory. It's just so powerful, and this is what everything we're doing this weekend is all about, and it's perfectly exemplified on this stage with everyone who refused to accept what they were given and have created something so amazing and so much promise for their children and their families. So big round of applause for all of these brave people on stage.
Thank you for sharing your. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing your stories. So.
For having us.